Okay, so good day everyone. So our topic for today is about software development security. So secure software development, we need to understand the best practices, the frameworks, and the resources. So just how important is building secure software today? So, well, considering the recent surge in successful cyber attacks taking advantage of software vulnerabilities, it's become essential for organizations to purchase and use only the best software. No.
Okay na, sir. Test, test. Sir, nadidinig niyo ako, sir? Hello, sir?
Okay, so again, we need to understand the secure software development is a methodology often associated with the DevSecOps, of course, for creating software that incorporates security into every phase of software development lifecycle, which everyone are familiar with the SDLC, the system development lifecycle. Security is baked into the code from inception rather than addressed after testing reveals critical product flaws. Security becomes part of the planning phase, incorporated long before a single line of code is written. And traditionally, security is viewed as an impediment to innovation and creativity by developers that creates delays in getting the products to market. So this thinking hurts a business bottom line as it's 6 times more costly to fix a bug during implementation and 15 times more expensive during testing than to fix the same bug during design. So most importantly, how happy will customer be with the cool new features of an application if the product is laden with vulnerabilities for hacker to exploit? So security deserve a preeminent position in the software engineering process today, and organizations failing to do so will find themselves struggling to complete. So maybe somebody are asking, so how can security become part of the SDLC from the beginning? First, testing early and open. A secure software development policy stresses employing static and dynamic security testing throughout the development process. And second, development teams should also document software security requirements alongside the functional requirements. Finally, conducting risk analysis during design can be beneficial in helping you identify potential environmental threats. All organizations looking to offer secure software must lay the foundation for success by effectively preparing their people, processes, and technology for this challenge. So proper preparation takes the form for a well-constructed secure software development policy, which every organization committed to building secure software needs. Okay, to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our first presenter. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, sir. Sir, dinig niyo ako, sir?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Good morning sa inyo. Good morning, classmates. Good morning, Dr. Marmelo. Today, we will talk about the software development security. So first, here are the topics for the software development security. Okay. Okay, here are the topics for the software development security. First, we will look at some examples and data about the software development insecurities. Then we will discuss how the software development life cycle affects the security. And then in the database and the database protections and vulnerabilities. And last is the software vulnerabilities and threats. Okay, for at first, we define first what is security. As part of software development process is an ongoing process involving people and practices and ensures applications confidentiality, integrity, and availability. A secure software is a result of a security-aware software development process where security is built in and those software is developed with security in mind. So, ang security daw is binubuo ng may confidentiality. So, dapat yung mga users, yung mga accounts natin, at saka yung mga application natin is confidential lang lagi, integrity, at syempre is available pa rin kahit secure siya. Okay. So first, let's take an example from the federal government of the United States. In 2008 fiscal year report Congress to the implementation of Federal Information Security Management Act of 2002, that 25 major agencies of federal government continue to improve information security performance relative to the certification and accreditation rate, testing and contingency plans and security controls. As you can see, makikita natin sa table na pataas naman yung kanyang rating sa certification and accreditation sa security, sa contingency plans, security controls. Pero, yet, 20 of 24 major agencies indicated that inadequate information security controls were either significant deficiency or a material weakness. So hindi siya yung hindi secure yung mga nagagawang applications ng mga agencies sa federal government. So next is here's another data representation ng insecurities. So kung mapapansin nyo, sa year 2010 to 2011, mataas yung, biglang nag-spike yung scans, probes, and attempted access sa mga federal governments. And yung securities nun is pataas ng pataas. According to an analysis by Software Engineering Institute, most software security vulnerabilities arise from common causes, where more than 90% are caused by known software defect types, where the top 10 causes account for about 75% of all vulnerabilities. So, gusto ko sana pakita yung top 25 na most dangerous software weakness. Pero gusto niyo hulaan kung ano yung mga nasa top 25? Okay, sige. Okay, pakita ko na lang siguro. So, this is the 2021 CEE top 25 most dangerous software weaknesses. CEE, or Common Weakness Enumeration, is a list of software and hardware weaknesses. These weaknesses are dangerous because they are often easy to find, exploit, and allow adversaries to completely take over a system, steal data, or prevent an application from working. The CEE Top 25 is a valuable community resource that can help developers, testers, and users, as well as project managers, security researchers, and educators. So, etong list na to is a community list. So, yung mga developers, project managers, at saka mga testers, dito nila sinasubmit yung mga software weaknesses na na-encounter nila. So yearly, ina-update tong list na to. Yung nakuha ko doon sa aking pinagkuhanan ng report na about software development security, outdated na. At ito yung yung source sa baba. So kung mapapansin nyo is i-discuss ko yung top 1 and top 2 para magkaroon tayo ng idea, which is out of bounds, right? And improper neutralization of input during web page generation or cross-site scripting. And kung mapapansin nyo, yung common natin na problema na-encounter na weakness or problem, yung SQL injection is nasa number 6 lang. And yung mga default permissions, nandiyan din. Pero hindi siya ganun ka-important yung kanyang hindi ganun kataas yung rating sa kanya. Ang mataas is yung out of bounds, right? So, ano ba yung out of bounds rate na yun? So, iniisip nyo, bakit siya yung pinakamataas? Okay, CWE 787 or out of bounds rate. This is the software, this is when the software writes past the end or the beginning of the intended buffer. So, for example, ito yung ating kunyari logic or program. Kung mapapansin, teka. So kung mapapansin nyo, nag-declare dito tayo ng int array na may size na 3. And then, sinubukan natin siyang lagyan ng laman hanggang dito. So dito, error na siya. Yung program mo, nag-attempt na mag-input ng more than 3 elements. So this is the fourth element. So ito yung pinakamataas ngayon na software insecurities sa development. So ano yung kanyang okay. Since the array is only located to hold 3 elements, the valid indices are 0 to 2. So the assignment to ID sequence number 3 is out of bounds. Okay. CW79, improper neutralization of input during web page generation or cross-site scripting is when the software does not neutralize or incorrectly neutralize user controllable input before it is placed in output that is used as web page that is served to other users. So ito madalas siya sa mga web application or web pages. So ito yung example niya. $sign get username, then ine-echo lang natin mula do sa sa pagkaka-declare natin yung variables na yun. So yun, eto tinuturing tong isang software security. Because the parameter can be arbitrary, the URL of the page could be modified so the username contains scripting syntax such as yan yung nasa screen natin na pwede siyang JavaScript alert yung username na yun. Pwedeng lumala pa dyan yung code. Pwedeng makuha na yung mismong laman ng tables. Pwedeng script na dyan na sa JavaScript na yan yung buong database mo or pwede ring mag-execute ng drop table. So yun, medyo nakakatakot na yun pag nangyari yun. Okay. So after nating makita yung ilang mga software securities, let's discuss the system software lifecycle and security. As defined earlier, security as part of software development process. Security is most effective if planned and managed throughout every stage of software development lifecycle.
Okay, so again, um, a secure software development policy is a set of guidelines detailing the practices and procedures an organization should follow to decrease the risk of vulnerabilities during software development. So the policy should provide detailed instruction of viewing, assessing, and demonstrating security through each phase of the system development lifecycle, including risk management approach. No, so secure software development policy must establish rules of for your people. No, the team members must clearly understand their duties, receive thorough training, and undergo strict employee screening. Okay. So again, as I mentioned, no, testing protocols need to assess all employee work in order to ensure acceptable standards. No? The secure software development policy must also discuss the necessary processes for protecting software. So one of the most critical is the separation of development, testing, and operational environments. Breeds autonomy while preventing test bias and unauthorized code changes. So access control, another essential process, ensure employees can only access job relevant data. And finally, version control is a helpful process to track all sources and times of code alteration. The first tech-related action step in a secure software development policy should create the governing rules for programming languages and coding. Coding languages can contain numerous vulnerabilities. So developers must be well schooled on the hardening strategies that minimize attack routes. Now, a secure software development policy should also provide instruction on establishing secure repositories to manage and store data. Not only is a secure software development policy recommended, but it is also mandatory in certain instances. No, so many organizations benefit from aligning their practices with a well-established framework, such as NIST security or secure software development framework. No, organizations as OWASP and SafeCode have created a collection of foundational secure software development. No, resources that discuss software security in details, supplying the necessary guidance to reduce the number, lessen the impact, and prevent future vulnerabilities in software releases. Okay?
Okay. Pasensya na po sa abala. Kung nasa niyan. Pero, okay. Okay, sa software development lifecycle, and security. So, dito, kino-consider natin sa every part ng development yung security. So, bago yun, i-recall muna natin yung ating knowledge sa SDLC. So, first, here is the classic waterfall. So, very basic, simula sa requirements, design, then implementation, verification, and maintenance. Then, through the years, nag-evolve na yung classic waterfall, naging modified waterfall na siya. At nagkaroon na siya ng feedback system. Itong arrow na pataas na to is the feedback. So for example, itong requirements is dumating sa design, magkakaroon siya ng feedback sa requirements. For example, yung design, yung requirements is may hinihingi pang mga additional requirements pagkatapos dumating ng design. So yun yung bagay na pabalik ng feedback. And then, if an error or problem are detected at any phase, this feedback system helps previous phases to correct errors or problems. So yun, nagkakaroon ng correction every time na bumababa yung process sa SDLC. Okay, ito naman yung medyo mas malala na. Modified waterfall with sub projects. Medyo same siya sa modified waterfall, pero nagkaroon siya ng mga task. Kung mapapansin nyo sa architecture design, nahati na siya sa tatlong part or task. So this is an example of modified waterfall model with sub-projects. Careful planning can allow you to perform some of the waterfall's tasks in parallel. The main problem here is the unforeseen interdependencies. So ito yung minsan hindi nakikita yung mga problem do sa ibang part ng task. For example, dito, di napansin yung problem na nandito. So, bumabalik naman siya sa ng feedback dito sa architecture design. You can partly account that by eliminating dependencies at architecture design or wait until after detailed design time to break projects into sub-projects. So, hintayin mo munang matapos yung isang task bago mo malaman kung anong problema doon sa kabilang task. So, yan. Next is Bowen spiral model. In Bowen spiral model, you start small and expand the scope of the project in increments. So, ito, mula sa maliit na part ng project mo, palaki ng palaki yung scope mo, and palaki ng palaki yung research mo, and then the software requirements validation. So, yun. Hindi ko na masyado itatakal to kasi in general naman yung pag-uusapan natin sa software development lifecycle and security. Then next is the RAD. Ito, ginamit ko to dati sa aking last, yung nag-thesis ko dati. So this is iterative but small, but spiral cycles are much smaller. So umiikot lang sa bawat process yung development niya. Risk-based approach but focus on good enough outcome. So the SDLC fundamentals are still applying requirements configuration and quality management, design process, coding, test, integration, technical, and project reviews. So yung pinaka concept pa rin ng SDLC is halos pare-parehas pa rin naman kahit anong SDLC yung ating gamitin. So nandun pa rin yung requirements, yung design, yung coding, test, maintenance. So halos pare-parehas pa rin naman kahit nagkakaiba siya ng SDLC. Okay, there are many different SDLC models and methodologies, but each generally consists of a series of defined steps and phases. For any SDLC that is used, information security must be integrated into the SDLC to ensure appropriate protection for the information that the system will transmit and process and store. So the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineer, or IEEE 122 2005, guides the enterprises or the projects to a well-engineered solution to a system development. Its main purpose is to provide a standard for managing system from a initial concept through the development, operations, and disposal. As you can see, dito sa ating IEEE 1220 process models. So, nandito pa rin yung requirements analysis, baseline validation, functional analysis, functional verification, synthesis, and physical verification. Okay, ito yung security considerations in system development lifecycle. So, in initiation phase, okay, according to the IEEE 1220, there are 5 phases in SDLC. The initiation phase, here's the first one, the acquisition phase or the development phase, operations or maintenance phase, and disposition phase. In each phases, security considerations are observed. So first is the initiation phase. First, in security considerations, we must survey and understand the policies, standards, and guidelines. So dapat alamin na natin kung ano yung mga policies na existing. For example, magde-develop ka ng web page para sa isang government institution. Merong sinusunod na standard and guidelines doon. Nasa DICT web page yung standard na yun kung sakaling may involve ka sa mga projects sa city government, sa kahit anong government fees. Yun, isa yun sa mga kinoconsider. Plus, yung Data Privacy Act. So, dapat alam mo na rin yun. Dapat kinoconsider mo na yun sa pag-develop na yung sa pag-gather ng data. And then, identify information assets such as the tangible and the tangible. So, dapat yung mga gagamitin na bagay sa development mo, ma-consider mo na rin. Define information classification and protection level. So, sino-sino ba yung mga gagamit ng system mo? Dapat ba lahat ng access is bibigay mo na? Or magli-limit ka sa mga users mo? And then, define rules or behavior and security conducts. And conduct preliminary risk assessment. So, dapat na-imagine mo na yung magiging problema based pa lang doon sa requirements na makukuha. Next is acquisition or development phase. First, we again conduct the risk assessment. So, and then define the security requirements and select security controls. So dito nagde-define nga na dapat ng mga access and yung, for example, sa database mo, kung ano yung magiging public access na gagamitin mo, ano yung set mo lang para sa users mo, and then yung set mo para sa development team or sa main super admin mo. And then perform cost benefit analysis and security planning based on the risk and the CBA. So dito dapat meron ka ng idea kung gaano gastos yung kung ano yung cost ng project mo. Kasi pag tinipid mo to bigla at hindi mo na natansya yung magiging project mo, magkakaroon ka ng medyo magkakaroon ng matitipirin na part sa project. So baka doon makakahanap ng butas. And practice information system security engineering or the ISSE process to develop security control. So eto, i-consider mo na to sa development phase pa lang. So development, security test, and evaluation plan for verification and validation of security controls. So habang nasa development phase ka pa lang, dapat kino-consider mo na yung dapat tin-test mo na at naalam mo na yung pwedeng maging testing procedures and evaluation do sa ginagawa mo. For example, yung mga input mo, dapat ano ba yung mga dapat na tanggapin na variables? For example, dapat ba yung address mo tatanggap ng wild characters? Iaalam mo ba yon? Papahirapan mo ba yung users mo na hindi siya makapag-type ng sharp sign? So yun, dapat kina-consider mo na yun. At meron ka ng sa validation para sa mga ganun. Next is implementation phase or the production stage. Here we implement security controls in accordance with the system security plan and perform security certification and accreditation of target system. So sa implementation phase, dapat may idea ka na dapat may plano ka na sa yung security system mo. Dapat kung maaari, magkaroon ka ng certification ng system mo para ma-validate na secure naman yung naging product na i-implement. Then next is operations and maintenance phase or the support stage. Configuration management and perform change control. Continuous monitoring and perform periodic security assessment. So dito, as yung nauna ko sinabi about sa user control, dapat for example, merong mga umalis na tao at dapat yung mga access ng mga tao ngayon is i-update mo. Kung maaari, tatanggalin mo na siya para hindi na may chance na magamit ulit yung credentials nila. Yun, dapat ina-update mo yung mga bagay na yan. And siguro yun, yung katulad nung sa number 3, nagkaroon ka na accreditation and certification, dapat tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung monitoring na. Iko-contact ka ulit ng parang yung naging standard ng certification and accreditation mo para doon. And next is number 5, the disposition phase or the disposal stage. Preserve information, archive and store electronic information. Sanitize media. Ensure the electronic data stored in disposed media are deleted, erased, and overwritten. And dispose hardware. Ensure all electronic data resident in hardware are deleted, erased, or overwritten. Ito, dito sa phase na to is, ito na yung end of life na ng system mo. So dapat dito, kung meron kang dapat i-archive na data, dapat secure pa rin yung pagkaka-store mo, pagkaka-compress mo, dapat well documented yon. And then sanitize the media. So dito, ito na yung kung kailangan bang i-dispose yung mga ginamit mo equipments. So for example, yung hard drive. So ano nang gagawin niyo doon sa lumang hard drive na ginamit niyo para sa inyong system? Dapat niyo bang burahin na yung lahat ng or i-dispose na yung mismong hard disk drive ng system? And kung maaari, hindi lang dapat itapon, dapat wasakin na yung mismo loob, durugin. Para ma-ensure lang na walang data gagamit kasi talagang sirang-sira na yung hard drive. So yun. Okay, next is okay. This is the here is to show what is each of the SDLC in relation to the key system engineering task and its key security engineering task. So dito, sa side na to, ito yung stage development mo. Then this is the acquisition and this is the key system engineering task. So dito yung pinaka parang common na ginagawa ng engineering, system engineering or sa development. And this is the key security engineering. So ito yung parang idadagdag mo sa process mo, sa stage mo. So first, medyo mahaba-haba to. Okay, so first, the task 1 is when we understand the customer's missions, business goals, we must understand the customer's information protection needs. So for example, kukuha ka ng mga data ng tao, kukunin mo first name, last name, middle initial, birthday. So yun yung kailangan mo kasi sa business mo. Paano ka mag-identify ng magiging customer mo kung di mo makukuha yun, kung di mo makukuha ng kumpleto. Dapat alam mo rin kung ano yung kailangan ng protection ng mga users mo. Ano ba pwede mong gawin? Pwede mong encrypt yung pagiging input na pagdating sa database, di siya mababasa basta-basta unless na lang kung gagamit sila ng system mo. Okay, then sa concept refinement, understand system concept of operation or the CONOPS. In security engineering, we must understand the operating environment. Next is create high-level entity data relations model. Here, we create information management model. So kung dito, gagawa ka ng parang ERD mo, dito dapat meron kang information management model. Define engineering project strategy and integrate into the overall project strategy. Here in key security, we define information protection policy and integrate into the project strategy. So dito dapat meron na kayong ginagawang mga policy at strategy para sa inyong system, sa concept ng system niyo. And then we create a system engineering management plan. Then we create a system security plan. So tatapatan mo yung development nyo ng security rin. Okay. Next is the development stage. So here in technology development, we define system requirements, the functional, performance, operation, support. In security, we select assurance requirements and define security functional requirements. We refine the CONOPS and we refine the IMM-SSP. Yung naunang naging task nyo sa gathering stage, parang i-apply nyo lang sa mismong development na. Okay, so system development and demonstration, design system architecture and allocate system requirements to subsystems and components. In security, we allocate system security requirements to subsystem and service components. So dito, nagka-allocate ka ng nyari, yung size ng database mo, gaano ka laki siya sa magiging storage mo, and other yung mga frameworks and required applications para sa system mo. Dito, i-consider mo na rin pati yung security na idadagdag mo. For example, kukuha ka na ng secure na antivirus or firewall service, idadagdag mo na siya. Pati na rin yung, for example, magdadagdag ka ng size para sa database mo, para sa nabuo mong security plan. And in task 4, we develop detailed system design or logical and physical. We refine the entity data relations or the UML. Here in security, we refine the IMM. So yung una nabuo na plano, i-embed mo na siya sa yung security controls and system design products. Okay, next is the product stage or the production and deployment. In key system engineering tasks, we implement system design. But in key security engineering tasks, we implement the security controls. So dito, nag-design ka ng system, dito i-apply mo yung magiging boundaries ng system mo. We conduct the system test, then we conduct the security test and the evaluation. So dito, i-testing mo na sino-sino ba yung makaka-access, ano yung may SQL injection ba, or pagkabubugbugin mo na dito ng system mo, bukod doon sa normal na tinetest mo, i-consider mo na rin yung mga hacking, yung third party na application, or yung, for example, nag-kiosk ka lang, dapat walang access sa keyboards, yung ganun. I-apply mo na rin siya dito. And we generate systems operation procedure and user guide manual. Here, we generate the SOP or the Trusted Facility Manual or TFM, Incident Response Plan, and Business Continuity Plan or the BCP. Dito, yung gagawa ka lang ng system user guide manual, yung normal mong ginagawa ng SOP. Dito, gagawa ka na ng response plan. For example, kunyari, risk plan. Kunyari, nag-down yung system mo, nag-crash yung database mo dahil na-hack. Dapat meron na kayong plano kung anong gagawin nyo. Kung sino tatawagan or anong steps na gagawin nyo para sa recovery ng system niya. Next is the conduct system acceptance test. But in security engineering task, we assess the security effectiveness. So dito, kung nakapag-acceptance test na kayo, dapat i-assess nyo na rin kung gaano ka-secure yung system. Okay, yun yung last part. Okay. Next topic is the database and DB warehousing vulnerabilities, threat and protection. Okay. Okay. Okay, medyo common na sa atin to, yung definition na to. The database management system. What is the database? Database are developed to manage information from many resources in one location. So, ito yung pagko-collect natin ng data. So, ano ba yung dapat natin consider sa database? So, we eliminate the need for duplication of information system. Those preserves storage space. We prevent inconsistency in data by making changes in one central location. The DBMS consists of hardware, software, and databases used to manage larger sets of structured data. It enables multiple users and applications to access, view, and modify as needed. So, sa paggamit mo ng database, napapalawak mo yung access ng system mo. So, from simple Excel to a systematic database, malaking movement yun. Ito nga, can enforce control restrictions, we provide data integrity and redundancy, and we establish procedures for data manipulation. Okay. Next is the database management system models. So, ito, common na rin sa atin to. Nadi-discuss din na rin to sa mga previous topics natin and sa ibang subjects na rin natin. First, siguro, define muna natin lahat. The hierarchical DBMS. It stores information records data in a single table. Okay. We use a parent-child relationship, and it is limited to a single tree, no links between branches. Okay. Next is network DBMS. The relationship of information records are of same type. All association are direct connects, which forms a network. So, connected ano siya, database. Then next is the relational DBMS. Information records are structured in tables. Columns are attributes, and rows are the records. So ito yung common nating na-encounter na DBMS. Object-oriented DBMS or object relational DBMS. The information records are objects and the relationships of objects are dynamic. Thus, the association can be made hierarchical, network, or relational. So, ito na yung parang pinagsama-sama na itong tatlong nasa taas. And ang pinaka-ano niya is mga object yung mga ini-store niya. Okay. Sa RDBMS, we have this unique ID as the primary key. It identifies each row, record, or tuple. The tuple cannot, or the record cannot have a null value in the primary key. The primary key value guarantees that the record is unique. So, sa bawat database natin, meron tayo lagi dapat na primary key at dapat unique yun. And then we have the foreign key. Ito yung primary key na existing sa pang database na nagre-reference doon sa record na yun. And the referential integrity rule. For any key value, the reference relation to another table must have a record with the same value of the other table's primary key. So, dapat kung existing yung foreign key na yun, dapat meron siyang katapat na primary key doon sa main table. A null value in the foreign key prevents a join. So kung nag-query kayo, SQL or alam naman natin na hindi tayo makapag-join kung walang foreign key. Okay, ito yung example, the traveler manifest table. So we have this unique ID, and we need this primary key, this unique ID is existing to another table. So ito rin, meron siya sariling unique tag ID, which is also unique. Hindi siya nauulit. Okay. Sa view and schema, in the relational DBMS, a data dictionary is the central repository of data elements and their relationships. A schema holds the data that describes a database, and view is the relation defined by the database to keep subjects from viewing certain data. The security issues are: we must ensure the integrity of input data. Check. Relational DBMS has been the most widely used database model, but its security issues has been challenged in protecting your precious data. One of these security challenges is to ensure integrity of input data. Checking input values for each data type, and buffer overflow prevention will protect the database from data corruption. So dapat chine-check natin kung yung mga values natin na input is tama do sa papasukan niya na column. For example, ang ini-input mo is ang hinihingi ng database mo is integer, dapat integer din ang bibigay mo. Huwag ka magbibigay. So common na yung problem na nag-i-input ka ng string, which madalas niyan, yung string na yan is empty. Ina-assume mo na ipapasok mo sa int na column is blank. So, ganun din sa date. Sa MySQL, may issue yung blankong date na ipapasok mo sa column na nahingi ng date. So, yun, dapat consider mo yun kung anong gagawin mo ron. And then we prevent the buffer overflow, or which is yung for example, nag-set ka ng size na 255, dapat consider mo yun na dapat yung input mo is di lalagpas sa 255. Mahabang text yun, mahabang kunyari description yun, at di siya kasya, dapat i-prevent mo na yung input is di lalagpas to sa size na yan. And then the access control. Another one is looking at the access control of the database. Ensure only authorized users are working on authorized activities. Set the proper access and privileges. So, common na to na pag gumagawa na isang database or system, nagsiset tayo ng mga access, nagsiset tayo ng users, super admin. So dapat kakaroon ng update sa mga na-notify ka kung sino yung mga need to know and the least privileges. At dapat yung mga access nila is alam palagi. At na-update in case na merong changes sa organization, dapat updated yung system mo at yung database mo na rin. Okay, and next is preventing deadlock, which is stalemate when two or more processes are each waiting for each other to do something before they can proceed. So ito yung nagkaroon siya ng problema sa process mo, nagsabay na nag-query na parehas malalaki yung hinihingi. So deadlock yun. Kinukuha niya parehas yung sabay yung resources mo, kaya magkakaroon ka ng problema doon. Preventing deadlock is the stalemate when two or more processes are each waiting for each other to something. A deadlock can be prevented if the resources are allocated in such way that deadlock never occurs. The DBMS analyze the operations whether they can create a deadlock situation, or if they do, the transaction is never allowed to be executed. Okay. Next is the OODBMS or ORDBMS. Mahaba pa. Para sa oras pa. Okay. Class is a set of objects which shares a common structure and behavior. The relationship between classes can be hierarchical or superclass and subclass. Object is a unique instance of data structure defined according to the template provided by its class, and each object has its own values for the variables belonging to its class and can respond to the methods defined by its class. Method is a procedure or routine associated with one or more classes. So ito yung sa object-oriented DBMS and object relational DBMS. So may gagawa ka ng object, then gagawa ka ng class, and then method. Object-oriented database represents a paradigm shift in the traditional database model. So ito medyo bago to sa ating para innovation sa ating sa existing na mga database structures natin. So pero meron lang existing na OODBMS, which is the Versant. Pero di rin ako familiar dito. Object relations are built dynamically based on business needs instead of series fixed business process. So sa object relation, we have the presentation layer, which is the user client level, and the business logic layer, which accepts commands from the presentation layer and send instructions to the last part, which is the data layer, and which is the database. The example of this is the Oracle and the IBM database. Okay. Next is the data warehousing. Data warehousing combines data from multiple database or data structures in a large database called data warehouse. Dito dapat ang security is much strict kesa sa normal natin kasi ang lahat ng data is nasa isang facility lang. Data mining or knowledge discovery database is a practice of automatically searching large stores of data for patterns. So ito yung mga common na sa Lazada, sa Shopee. At data mining na yung ginagawa nila doon. So database controls. Database control refers to the task of enforcing regulations so as to provide correct data to authentic users and applications of a database. In order that the correct data is available to users, all data should conform to the integrity constraints defined in the database. So dito dapat nag-i-implement na tayo ng integrity constraints, which first is the granularity, which is the degree to which access to provide to objects can be restricted. So here nagde-define ka na kung ano yung ma-access ng mga object na nasa database mo. Content dependent access control, permissions by view, and cell suppression. So dito sa permissions by view, we combine the specific table, columns, and key sets. Authorization for specific views having specific attributes and for actions to perform within those views. Discretionary access controls or the DAC by specific grant to user or group by owner. Mandatory access control, which is MAC, is by classification level. Cell suppression is a technique used to hide or not show specific cells that contain information that could be used in an inference attack. So ito yung parang tatago ka na ng data by hiding cells as protection sa system mo. Partitioning, which is involving dividing a database into different parts, which makes it harder for an individual to find connecting pieces. So ito yung hinahati mo na yung database mo sa iba't ibang storage. Medyo di pa kami familiar dito sa partitioning na to, pero noise and perturbation, a technique of inserting bogus information aimed at misdirecting or confusing an attacker. So ito, nagpapasok ka ng parang error na mga text or ano. So parang pwedeng i-assume ng attacker na test lang yung database mo, parang gano'n. Then next is concurrency, which is allowing multiple users to access the data contained within a database at the same time. Here, we must make sure that the most up-to-date information is available. If concurrent access is not managed by the database management system, so that simultaneous operations don't interfere with one another, problems can occur when various transactions interleave, resulting in an inconsistent database. Okay, the semantic integrity. Okay, in database controls, we have this type of integrity service. First is the semantic integrity, which ensures the structural and semantic rules are enforced. The types of rules include data types, logical values, and uniqueness constraints and operations that could adversely affect the database. Entity integrity, which ensures that the tuples or records are uniquely identified by the primary key values. And next is the referential integrity, which ensures that all foreign keys reference valid and existing primary keys. In other words, if a record does not include a primary key, it cannot be referenced. Next is the configurable controls for integrity. A rollback is a statement that ends a current transaction and cancels all other changes. Sa ko ba tayo nakita? Sa SQL yata meron ganito na parang, for example, nag-update ka ng record, then nagkamali ka ng execution, nagkamali ka ng reference. Pag merong ganitong klase ng control sa database mo, the rollback and the commit, pwedeng mabalik yung status ng database mo. Kumbaga hindi siya, mayroon pa siyang save point yung ginawa mong command. And next is the commit. So katulad ng sinabi ko sa rollback, this terminates a transaction and execute all changes that were just made by a user. So instead na direct query ka do sa database mo, maglalagay ka pa ng commit na command just to execute that changes. Para kung sakaling may problema ka ron, pwede mo siyang i-rollback. Okay. Save points are used to ensure that if a system failure occurs or an error is detected, the database can return to a known good state prior to the problem. So, save point, parang backup na siya ng system mo. Kung sakaling nag-down yung database mo, meron kang babalikan na last copy ng database. And checkpoints, similar to save points, when the database S&W, ito, fills to a certain amount of a memory, a checkpoint is initiated which saves the data from the memory segment to a temporary file. So ito, para siyang save point pero sa checkpoint is hello?
Yes, go ahead. We are you.
Okay. Para siyang save point pero sa checkpoint is nag-set ka na ng time and sources para do sa backup mo. For example, every 12 nagba-backup ka, or for example, na-reach na ng database mo is yung kanyang size na sinet mo, magkakaroon na siya ng kanyang checkpoint or parang save point na rin. Okay, in database security controls, we have this polyinstantiation. Okay. It allows a relation to contain multiple rows with the same primary key. The multiple instances of primary keys are distinguished by their security levels. It is used to prevent inference attacks by inserting bogus data at lower security levels. So parang yung instead na yung record mo is may isang katapat lang na yung unique ID mo ay may isang katapat lang na isang record na para sa kanya lang. Meron rin siya kasama na mga ibang bogus na or parang trash data na para maprotektahan yung legit na data. Pero parang yun nga, isa-set mo siya sa lower security levels na in-assess mo nung nagde-develop ka pala ng system or database mo. Next is the granularity, the degree to which access to objects can be restricted. Granularity can be applied to both the actions allowable on objects as well as to the users allowed to perform those actions on the object. Okay, this is the database security issues. The online transaction processing, or the OLTP, it is usually when the multiple database are clustered to provide fault tolerance and higher performance. Transaction logs are used for synchronization of database. So ito na yung parang multiple database na yung ginagamit mo. Hinahati-hati mo na yung data sa iba't ibang database and gagamit ka na ng transaction logs para malaman kung nasaan napupunta yung mga data na yun, kung parang routing. And the OLTP transaction occur in real time, which usually updates more than one database, which introduces integrity threats. To counteract this, ACID test should be implemented. ACID means the atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. Atomicity is the dividing the transactions into unit of works and ensures all modifications take effect or none do. So either i-divide mo yung trabaho ng database or ng system, and kailangan lahat ng ginawa mo changes, lahat ng dapat na i-update ay magte-take effect. Pero pag may isang hindi success, dapat lahat sila roll back. Kumbaga dito, lahat sila naka-commit. Pag hindi sila lahat nag-commit, nag-execute, i-roll back mo yung change na yun. Next is the consistency. A transaction must follow integrity policy for that specific database and ensure that all data is consistent in the different database. So dito, madalas to sa pag gumagawa ka ng copy ng mga database, parang gumagawa ka ng duplicate database just in case na mag-down yung main mo, meron kang backup, dapat consistent yung meron kang yung integrity policy mo dapat same lang din dun sa duplicate na database. Next is the isolation. Transactions execute in isolation until completed without interacting with other transactions. So for example, meron kang gagawin na query na makakaapekto ng malaki sa yung sa system mo, dapat magkakaroon ka ng isolation doon. Hangga't di na complete yung yung ginawa mo, yung di mo na-execute ng kompleto yung process mo, dapat i-isolate mo lang siya. And next is the durability. Once the transaction is verified as accurate on all systems, it is committed and the database cannot be rolled back. So once na, yun nga, kunyari, for example, sa end of the day, natapos na yung trabaho ng system mo, dapat wala nang magiging rollback. Lahat na ng process, lahat na ng queries is committed and yun nga, hindi na dapat babalik sa kakaroon ng rollback na command. Okay, next is the database threats. Aggregation, which is the act of combining information from separate sources. It is when the combined information has a sensitivity level greater than any of the individual parts. As an example, entity rooms can be combined to form a single entity called a hotel. Finding a hotel can be much easier than finding a room. So parang parang hahati-hati mo yung yung table mo. For example nga yung hotel. Imbis na isang table lang siya, hahati mo pa siya sa mas maraming table na parang naka-reference lang doon sa isang name. Just to make sure that yung data hindi siya parang may matagal mabasa yung database mo kasi dadaan pa siya sa maraming table bago niya makuha yung gusto niya information. Next is inference. The user deduces, infers, or figures out the full story from pieces learned through aggregation and other sources. It differs from aggregation that data is not explicitly available, is used during the act of deduction. Parang nahuhulaan yung structure ng database mo. Parang alam na niya kung saan kukunin yung mga data na kailangan. For example, kunyari, table family. Parang, okay, alam ko na yung mga laman nito. Alam ko na may last name, may first name sa record na to. Parang huhulaan na niya kung ano yung mga table names mo. Parang ganun, tas yung mga birthday, yung B-day lang, pangalan ng column, security number. Okay. Then next is the deadlocking, which is two processes have locks on separate objects, and each process is trying to acquire a lock on the object that the other process has. So ito yung katulad ng kanina, parang nagsasabay na nagsasabay-sabay mag-process yung mga query na nagre-request sa system. So madalas to pag, for example, merong query na sobrang laki ng hinihingi na data. For example, nag-search ka ng pangalan, tapos search mo lang is Santos, pero tapos maghanap ka ng Santos sa 500,000 na records. And then may sasabay na ibang record. So yung bago pa siya matapos to sa kakahanap ng Santos na yun, mai-produce yung listahan ng Santos, meron pang another query na naghahanap ng ibang pangalan. Yun, nagkakaroon doon ng deadlock. Okay, yun. Next is the software, and the last topic is the software vulnerabilities and threats. Software vulnerabilities must be identified and prevented, which requires you to have an understanding of the vulnerabilities definition. Okay. First, na define natin is the entity, the threat source, which is the entity that acts on a vulnerability. Then this threat source gives rise to threat, which is any potential danger to information lifecycle. The threat then exploits the vulnerability, which is a system has weakness or flaw that may provide an opportunity to a threat source. And the vulnerability is leading to a risk. The risk is the likelihood of a threat source can take advantage of a vulnerability. Then this risk can damage the asset, and this asset the risk can damage the asset and can cause an exposure, which is an instance of being compromised by the threat source. And lastly, this exposure can be countered by a countermeasure or safeguard, which is an administrative, operational, or logical mitigation against a potential risk. Okay. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses that allow attackers to compromise the security objectives or information systems. Defects can be design flaws or implementation weaknesses, and bugs are implementation level weaknesses. Okay. So ito ulit yung top 25 most dangerous software weaknesses. Just in case na sa organization nyo is nakikita nyo itong mga to and gusto nyo consider na i-review yung mga policies nyo. Pero yung link naman, pwede nyo search sa Google na lang yung CWE. Nandun yun. Tapos parang meron siyang guide kung paano mo i-assess at parang i-solve yung mga ganitong software weaknesses. Okay. Categories of software weaknesses. First is the insecure interaction between components. Weaknesses related to insecure ways in which data is received between separate components, modules, programs, threads, or systems. Next is the risky resource management. The weaknesses are related to ways in which software does not properly manage the creation, usage, transfer, or destruction of important system resources. And porous defenses is when weaknesses is related to defensive techniques that are often misused, abused, or just plain ignored. So dito, baga sa porous defense, ito na yung pinaka parang di mo na i-consider security. So inahayaan mo na parang pwedeng input ng kahit anong special character sa inputs mo. Inahayaan mo na yung URL is nagdi-display ng IDs ng records. So yun. Okay. To reduce and eliminate the software vulnerabilities, we must address the structural and design flaws. So balik tayo ulit dito sa chart na to, sa flow chart na. Okay, we must first understand the information protection needs. So dapat alam na natin kung ano yung mga kailangan, and then develop use and abuse cases. So use and abuse, so yung mga inputs natin, baga i-check natin ng i-check yung mga valid and invalid na inputs, o mga special characters, o yung length ng inputs. Then we define the system security requirements. So yun nga, yung access controls, yung firewalls, then we design the system architecture and then develop the detailed system design and security controls. Then, in addressing the software bug weaknesses, we develop detailed software design specifications. So para maiwasan natin software bugs, i-check natin talaga yung ating software design. And then yung mga requirements, the specification, ano ba kailangan ng system mo? Sino ba yung mga users mo na gumagamit? Ano ba kaya nilang gawin? And then implement code reviews and which is the static code analyzers. And then perform test, unit, subsystem, system, and acceptance test. And then vulnerability scanners. So kung maaari, pero kayong third party na pwedeng mag-assess sa system, mas maganda yon. Okay. Threats to software, which is the buffer overflow. Ito yung number one na problem ngayon number one na most software weaknesses. So it is one of the oldest, the most common problems to software. It is estimated that 50% of all vulnerabilities are due to buffer overflow. So parang sa experience ko, hindi siya ganun kalala. Pero in reality, mas madalas pala yung ganun na kakaroon ng input overload or yung overflow, yung mas malaki yung input pwedeng ibigay na input sa hinihingi ng system. So kung dati sa lumang report is number 3 lang siya, pero ngayon number 1 na talaga siya sa listahan. So paano ba natin ma-solve yung buffer overflow? So dapat yun nga, i-update natin lagi yung system. Once na-recognize natin yung threats na yan, dapat i-update natin, patch lang, lagi ng patch, always check for inputs. Dapat nag-enforce natin yung mga control, mga access control, and use language and frameworks that are relatively immune to buffer overflows. So, merong mga language na kumbaga immune sa buffer overflows. Ang C# yata hindi. Parang yung mga advanced na software na develop language na yata yung mga Perl na yata and B. Okay. Next. Okay. Threats to software, which is the cross-site scripting or XSS. XSS is one of the most prevalent web application. Web app security flaw is the number 2 in yung list kanina sa 2021 CWE SANS top 25 and it is top 1 in OWASP top 10. Cross-site scripting occurs when a web app in a web browser accepts untrusted data and it sends it to a web server without proper validation. Attackers can then execute scripts in a victim web browser to hijack user sessions, deface website, and insert malicious content, redirect users, and etc. So, ito na yung madalas na encounter pag nag-browse ka sa internet. Most likely, pag kunyari hindi masyadong kilala yung web page or medyo hindi na siya HTTPS. So, pag pindot mo pa lang, may lumalabas ng another tab na ganito, Lazada or ano. Ito na yan, cross-site scripting na yan. So, bukod doon sa nabigyan ka na ng ad, pwede na insertan ka pa ng malicious content ng mga malwares. This untrusted data could be JavaScript or other browser executable RIA contents such as ActiveX, Flash, or Silverlight. Etc. So, pwede nga siyang JavaScript. So, madalas JavaScript yung encounter ko ng cross-site scripting. Recommended countermeasures to prevent cross-site scripting attacks. Never insert untrusted data except in allowed locations. Use escaping, which is output encoding technique. Yung kung nag-PHP kayo, merong parang escape na command. Use an HTML policy engine to validate or clean user-driven HTML in an outbound way. Minsan yung default ng HTML na code na pagde-declare mas safe siya kaysa sa babaguhin mo yung way na pag i-display ng information. So yun. Then prevent DOM-based cross-site scripting and use HTTP only cookie flag. Okay, lapit pa tayo. Threats to software, which is the SQL injection. So ito common na sa amin to na nagkakaroon ng parang pwedeng mag-insert ng SQL query doon sa input ng users. Attackers can alter the logic of SQL queries to bypass security. So eto, so dito sa comic strip na to, kung mapapansin nyo, parang ginawa niyo pangalan ng anak niya is drop table students. So, yun. So, parang dahil sa nangyaring yun, nasira yung records ng school nila. Okay. Recommended countermeasures to prevent SQL injection is to use prepared statements. So, gamit kayo ng parameters lagi sa paggawa ng queries. Most important sa C# sa ginagamit ko madalas, merong SQL command .parameters .something add with value. Yun. This na direct ka do sa query, maglalagay ng user inputs. Pag parang last name equals double quote name, ilalagay mo, di mo siya direkta doon. Isa-set mo siya sa isang variable para maging secure yung website application mo. And use stored procedures. Escaping all user-supplied inputs, treat user input as untrusted data. So, lagi mong isipin na yung input ng data mo, kahit sinong gumagamit, kahit bata o matanda, is untrusted data. At may chance na maging dahilan para masira yung system mo. Okay. OS command injection, which is the shell injection. The attacker injects and execute unwanted system commands. So dito parang gumagawa na ng command para sa operating system, which is can be batch command or shell commands. So anong pwede natin gawin? Validate inputs pa rin and use application provided by the API and run automated code analysis tools. So next is the malwares, or which is the malicious code or the malicious software. For CISSP, there are these kinds of malware, which is viruses, worms, Trojan horses, rootkits, spywares, and cookies. So ngayon, mas mataas yung threats sa external kesa sa internal sa United States. Sa government na mas mataas kanila yung attack sa labas. At madalas sa kanila is hacking and malwares. At dito, kung mapapansin nyo, mostly ang kanilang atake is ni-install by ang nagiging atake ng malware is nag-install siya sa mga government offices. Okay, this is kinds of malwares na percentage. So pinakamataas is the send data to external site or entity. Okay, this is the definitions of a malwares. Virus is a program or piece of code that is loaded onto your computer without your knowledge and run against your wishes. Viruses can also replicate themselves. A simple virus that can make a copy of itself over and over, again, is relatively easy to produce. Polymorphic virus is a virus that changes its virus signature and its binary pattern every time it replicates and infects a new file in order to keep from being detected by antivirus program. So yung simple na virus is nagkakaroon siya ng nag-update siya based sa ginamit mong antivirus programs. Next is the boot sector virus, which is a boot sector virus, which is common type of virus that replaces the boot sector with its own code. Since the boot sector executes every time a computer is started, this is a type of virus which is extremely dangerous. Then macrovirus is a type of computer virus that is encoded as macro embedded into a document. So yung mga Word and Excel natin na may macro man, kaya nag-i-issue ng warning kapag nagda-download ka ng Excel and Word through internet and through mail, ay nagkakaroon siya ng pop-up dahil dito sa macro virus. Baka kasi mayroong ng macro embedded na virus sa document na dali ka na. Next is a word, a program or algorithm that replicates itself over and over in a computer network and usually performs malicious actions. Different from viruses in that they are self-contained and do not need a host application to reproduce. Logic bomb, also called a slug code, programming code, is added to a software of an application or operating system that lies dormant until predetermined period of time or event occurs. So, parang time bomb siya. Kumbaga, nangyayari sa kanya is napasok na niya yung system mo, pero di agad siya nag-activate. Naghihintay siya minsan, kunyari, idle, for example, alam niya na yung user is di na active. For example, iniwan mo sa gabi yung computer mo, gumagana, doon siya mag-execute. Okay. Last 3. Okay, Trojan horse is a destructive program that masquerades as a benign application. So, parang ordinary lang siya application, pero isa siyang malware. Then, the data diddler refers to the payload in a Trojan or virus that deliberately corrupts data, general by small increments. So, ang data diddler is parang virus na palaki ng palaki yung kinakain niya. Hoax is usually a warning about viruses that do not exist. So, madalas to sa mga antivirus na ginagamit natin na libre lang. Parang sasabihin ng antivirus na yun na, hey, you have something number of viruses. Pero ang totoo, wala naman talaga. Then, trapdoor and backdoor can also be called a maintenance hook. It is a hidden mechanism that bypass access control measures. So, eto, madalas to, pag yung sa nagde-develop ng pag kunyari, alam nung hacker yung code nung developer. For example, merong ginawa yung developer na yung backdoor, or for example, isang access na parang yung developer lang gumawa at nalaman din ng hacker yun. So, it is a security threat. Okay, yan. So, okay, thank you sa pakikinig. Pasensya na kung medyo kinain ko yung oras. And I hope na meron kayong natutunan sa diniscuss ko. And yun lang. Thank you, sir. Sir? Sir, nakamute kayo. Sir, nakamute kayo.
Sir, nakamute kayo.
Okay, so thank you very much, of course, to our presenter. No, again, his discussion is very comprehensive. No, particularly the secure software development. No, okay. So again, as I shared a while ago, no, that we need to prepare the organizations, no, ensuring that the organization's people, process, and technology are prepared to perform secure software development at the organization level, and in some cases for each individual project. No, protect the software. No, protect all components of the software from tampering and unauthorized access. produce well-secured software, no? The software that has minimal vulnerabilities in its releases. Respond to the vulnerabilities if in case, no? Because identify vulnerabilities in software releases and respond appropriately to address these vulnerabilities and prevent similar vulnerabilities from occurring in the future. So, this process for the preparation, no, of the organizations must be clearly defining both internal, no, and external software development security requirements for the organizations. Another thing that we need to consider, of course, is finding vulnerabilities is not only part of the security professional jobs. The other critical component is remediation. No? So the final process focuses on correcting current vulnerabilities and gathering data for future preventions. And once identified and confirmed, vulnerabilities must be expediently prioritized and fixed. So speed is essential in reducing the window of opportunity threat actors have to launch attacks. So additionally, once mitigated, it's beneficial to analyze a vulnerabilities caused to help prevent future occurrences. No? So tasks in this final process include gathering customer information and diligently reviewing testing code for any undiscoverable flaws, preparing a team plan and process for rapid vulnerability response and mitigation, creating and implementing a remediation plan for each identified vulnerability, and determining the root causes to construct a knowledge base for the future prevention. So in addition, not causes should be analyzed over time to identify patterns, and these patterns then can be spotted and remediated in other software. And the entire SDLC a while ago, as presented, can be periodically updated to eliminate similar issues in future releases. No? So the top software security best practices: number one, think security from the very beginning. Number two, create a secure software development policy. Number three, employ a secure software development framework. Number four, design software with best practices to meet security requirements, protect code integrity, review and test code early and often, and be prepared to mitigate vulnerability quickly. Always configure secure default setting. Better for us as an IT practitioner to use checklists and remain agile and proactive. Okay. So, one of the most challenging part of maintaining information system is that people often don't follow through and complete their assigned tasks. Unfortunately, these human errors are most often at the heart of security problems. As organizations grow their technology footprint and evolve their business processes, security and compliance professionals need platforms that give them the ability to define security requirements, document and assign security tasks, monitor whether people perform tasks on time, and maintain accountability. So I think that's it.